Hello, hello. Welcome to Birthing the Gifts. I am clinical psychologist, Dr. Khiela Holmes, and here at Birthing the Gifts, we provide safe and compassionate places for people to grow their gifts. In this interview series, we discuss the process of giving birth to your God-given gifts. So today we have with us Katina Booth-White and Amber Booth-McCoy. Sisters. Wonderful, wonderful. Actually met you all. I think Amber, I actually knew you or saw you in passing at UAMS.
Yes.
So when I worked there before in advance, and then when you worked there as well, but more recently in this current chapter, I met you all both at a fair that was happening in the community. It was an awesome book fair that was going on. It was so great. It was families there. It was children there. It was just a wonderful. I felt like passion for literacy and reading and really enhancing and growing our community. And you all were there. I felt like people were flooding your table, talking to you, wanting you all to sign their books. I purchased 3 of you all's books, sent them to my niece and nephew. They love it. So I think that's just like wonderful. So I said, hey, I'm seeing this book. I'm seeing what they're doing. I think it's awesome. Let's get other people involved as well and see what they have going on. So I invited you all to come on this It's a Process conversation series to talk about you all's process in birthing your book, STEM Looks Like Me. All right. Well, before we jump into the book, again, this is about the process. This is about people learning about how do people go about discovering and cultivating and manifesting their God-given gifts. So just from this, I had a sense that something related to STEM is in both of you all's gift package. Is that, do I have it right? That's in your gift package. That's part of who you all are, in part.
Sure.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I'd like to think of my gift package being the idea, I guess, framework, the creative as it relates to the fact that we were building a STEM camp at UAMS at the time. And I was the one in charge of being the director of the camp. And so it was a task given to me by our then Vice Chancellor, Dr. Billy Thomas. And he was like, I want you to take this age group and I want you to build this STEM camp. And I just had these ideas of what I wanted, but I knew I needed a dope STEM teacher in order to be able to come up with the curriculum or the vision that I saw for the camp. And then it just so happened that my dad introduced me to Katina. So Katina, we are sisters at this point. We are actual sisters, but this is my adopted sister. So he introduced me at that time to Katina, who was Katina White. We got to birth this STEM camp together, and over time is now Katina Booth-White. So I'll let Katina talk about birthing the curriculum for that amazing camp. That amazing award-winning, still in progress, you know what I'm saying, still serving the state.
Still serving the state of
Yeah, still
Arkansas.
serving the state of Arkansas.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, talk about it. And then as you talk about that, for people, I know STEM is maybe a term or phrase, concept that people have heard about, but maybe not everybody. So if you could say a little bit about STEM, what that stands for, and then, yeah, go from there.
Well, STEM is basically it's science, technology, engineering, and math. And what I've been a STEM educator 10 years in the classroom as a STEM educator. 9 of those years as a robotics instructor, 9 of those years as a project lead the way instructor. So STEM has always, science, technology, engineering, math has always been part of my life ever since first grade, right? But when I met Amber, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to be part of the camp. I honestly didn't, because I'm passionate about educating and educating kids. They were doing a presentation and they put
They were
book.
not. It was not they.
Not
Amber
they.
was not
Not
involved
they.
in the
Not
presentation.
they. Let's say it again. Let's say it went. And so this picture really wasn't from Amber's vision, right? And so when I saw the picture, I'm like, no, I'm a pass. And so she said I was acting stuck up, but I just did, just like I'm a true STEM educator, and engagement and student and engaging kids is my passion in their learning. And so, but then when Daddy Booth called me and said, hey, you want to you need a job this summer? I was like, yeah, I'll take a job. He said, well, my daughter is director of this new program. I'm like, okay, cool. And that's how.
So imagine my shock when it was the exact same woman I had just met at the conference who was like, nah, I don't really think I want to, I mean, I think about it, but it was very like, get some, like at TikTok, get somebody else to do it. Like,
Get some, I did. And so then when we sat down and met in our first meeting, that's when I'm like, okay, I can fool with this. I can rock with
Okay.
this. This is what we're gonna do for the kids. And I was super excited. Her creativity and the brainstorming session that we had, it was just awesome of creating that creative, that culturally rich connection that we wanted kids from historically excluded populations to feel, the community, and the learning, the activities, like
That look like them.
that look
Like,
like them. And it was just like a real connection. And from then on, it was like we've been rocking.
Yeah.
Been rocking since then. So
Since
what was that,
then.
Katina? Would you say is that what caught your attention? And let me just say why I'm asking that. I'm asking that because sometimes I interact with people and sometimes it's hard for them to know like what is their passion? What is it that gets them like kind of excited? What are they interested in? How do they know whether to proceed with something? What do they say yes to? What do they say no to? So you're kind of saying it, but what was it that really caught your attention in that meeting where you say, this is it?
When she gave her idea, and then the way we were exchanging ideas, it was kind of like we were kind of on the same wavelength and frequency on what we desired to see with teaching this type of stuff with kids. And so it was, okay, so this is what I'm thinking. I mean, and then she came in on point with the binders with my name on it, with here is the background of the program. Let's look at it. And then that's when I knew, I was like, oh, okay, she's serious. So this is what we can do this. So it was the vision that she had, and it aligned with what my passion and my vision was. And so that's what really got it. It was just like, it was like true alignment, because I'm like, and when I left, I'm like, I have never been able to sync up with anybody that thought like I thought when it comes to STEM education within our community. And it was she had me hooked. So,
yeah.
and
I love it. I like how you say a true alignment. And I think that's something that people can look for. They're like, what are you looking for? If it seemed like you found true alignment with passion, vision, purpose, it lined up. You were like, let's go. Okay. We're going to rewind a little bit in the process if I could. I don't know if both of you all could speak to when in your life did you realize that STEM was a passion or an interest?
I think that the interesting thing about the way we operate is that STEM it's not necessarily about STEM being my passion. My passion is diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, or JEDI, as we say. So my passion is about representation. Is everybody at the table? Who's being seen? Who's not being seen? What voices are we amplifying? Who's being missed? And so I think it's the combination of those things. I study psychology. I'm finishing a terminal degree in organizational leadership. So as far as
talk about it. Okay. All right. I love it. Go ahead.
Oh, and we've battled over whether psych fits in STEM, you know what I'm saying? But it does. It's a science anyway. So but for me, it has always been about people and about service as it relates to that field. So when I say being in alignment, it genuinely felt like if we were talking chemistry, like affinity bonds, you know what I'm saying? Like it was two elements that absolutely should be together. And this is everything that we birthed after that would be like not even a spontaneous combustion. It's intentional.
Oh wow, it's intentional. It's intentional.
Yeah, and mine would be mine started in kindergarten, first grade. I learned my timetables and everything in kindergarten, first grade, playing dominoes, and cards, and those are like non-traditional ways in which I learned how to how to appreciate math and things like that. And then when third grade and I'm doing erosion projects and all of those things, it's always been a passion of mine. What I what I what I dealt with throughout my years is how do I do that and love being all things Black. And there was a time where it was you choose this, you have to act this way to participate in science, technology, engineering, and math. But how do I bring that to kids, especially when I, as an educator, I was noticing that the kids that look like me felt like it wasn't for them. That's not what we do. That's for another demographic. That's for somebody else. And I'm like, this is what we've been doing. This is what we should be doing. And how do I translate that in activities and engagement and curriculum and things like that? So how do I translate that to make sure that they connected and they're able to see themselves? So that's where my whole passion and alignment was. I don't need my kids to choose between who they are. I need them to bring all of that into science, technology, engineering, and math. And I think when I met Amber, that's where it was like, okay, so this is where we're trying to create this inclusive environment. We're trying to do this, and we need our kids to not have to
we talked like, what if somebody had told our kids Tupac was a poet because he was, or somebody had told us that Dr. Dre was an engineer because he is, you know what I mean? Like, that's technology. When you out there beat making, that's math is music, you know, like what if somebody has simply given our babies the view of STEM in a different way,
in a different lens. And that's what we wanted to do, to create a space for that you can still do that. I still have babies that are now in 10th grade that didn't have to learn genetics, because guess what? They learned that in 4th grade at our camp. So they are rapping the song, phenotype, genotype, and they're singing it and all of that. And they're like, I didn't have to really study. Why didn't you have to study? I already knew it. Y'all taught us in 4th grade. These are stories that I just recently got, even last week, from someone that is a kid that is in 9th grade that learned that in 4th grade at our camp. So just being able to correlate and bring that to their lives, that we can actually teach this content and they can still love who they are and don't feel like they have to be anything else.
I love that. I'm just sitting with that. Because as a psychologist that works with kids and teens, the ability for them to be in a space and be all of who they are and then have to feel like it has to be in conflict. Do I choose to strive educationally and do what I need to do educationally, or am I connecting with who I feel like I am in my Blackness? But then giving them a way to integrate that, to say, yes, bring all of that into this space. Connect with it, identify with it. I love it. I love it.
It's the expectation, I'm sorry, that we're going to bring all of it, and that our educators are going, like the people who engage with the camp. Like our theme 2 years ago was Black is everything. And it was Black is like, we meant everything. When we talked about everything from black holes to, the color Vanta Black, like Black is everything.
It's everything. And that, and whether people want to admit it or not, by me doing that as an educator and bringing my whole self and my full self, I also give my students permission to do that as well, from all ethnicities, from all backgrounds. I can't tell you how many letters and things that I've gotten of kids of like from other ethnicities, like, I didn't know that I could be this. I've had girls show up with a toolbox and a pink fur coat, drilling nails and things like that.
STEM and science.
And you like STEM and science. Like, I didn't know,
like fashion and STEM.
And STEM. I didn't know that I had the top 5 basketball players on my robotics team. And they like, I can do this and that. You absolutely can. And by me living that and being that, and by us trying to create that space, we allow our students to be able to do that and operate in that as well.
I love it. I'm just like smiling, and it's just getting me all excited, like on the inside and everything, because people that know me know I believe in the power of the and, because without the and, then it's the either or, like I gotta be here or here, but you let them know, and you can be an athlete and in STEM, you can be Black and you can be female and you can be It could be and all of that, all of that. I love it. Now, did you all, for you all, as you all kind of went through school, matriculated through school, was that a challenge for you personally? You feel like with how to blend all of those identities, particularly educationally and STEM, and I know, and both of you all are talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, justice. What did that look like for you all to be able to integrate that?
Tina, you go ahead.
Oh, I had a really difficult time. uh, because one, I love science, technology, engineering, math, but I love where I came from. And so trying to blend the two, I remember I went to the U of A and I was sitting in a calculus class, and I'm from, we wore certain colors back then. And I was just chilling, waiting on my calculus one class. And it was a dude that told another classmate of mine, like, who's that hood girl sitting there waiting on in the class? I'm like, it felt like I couldn't bring who I was and where I came from to these spaces. And I've never been one to want to assimilate. And so it wasn't until I came back home and realized that, and got with a group of people that were just as brilliant, just as black and on purpose and everything and it made me be the teacher who I am. And I've been on that journey ever since. And so I think, yeah, and I really grew into it around, I would say about 25, 26 is when I grew into it. But it was difficult for me as I was growing up. And then I was shy, I was quiet, but then I'm like, I like being black though. Like I like my culture. I love my culture. I don't want to have to choose between those two.
Yeah, it sounded like it definitely had to be a process, because you were saying you came into the realization, and that's just so awesome that you did. We may have to kind of go back into that, to how can a child in kindergarten and first grade, it's just like, maybe you just naturally connected with it, but from that time, you said 20 or 25, 26, it was a process. It sounds like, and that's why we call this, it's a process. Okay, we may delve more into that, but Amber, how about your point of view? What would you add?
My father was my principal, kindergarten through sixth grade, and also my very first teacher. So I had an affinity for reading and learning and all of those things as a child, but it also just so happens that my first teacher and father was pro-black. You know what I mean? Like, and I fell in love with blackness way before anything else. Like my first chapter book was Malcolm X's autobiography. Like that's like that would be the kid, you know what I'm saying, that I was. So I absolutely always loved being black. And then when by the time I got to high school, and I went to predominantly black elementary schools, because that's where my father enjoyed teaching. Those were the students that he enjoyed working with. And then I went to Northwood and North Pulaski for junior high and high school. And that is when I recall being othered and still having those same loves. You know what I mean? Like not getting to read material that looked like me anymore unless it was February, or being in AP classes and there only being 4 Black students. And you're not going to tell me only 4 of us in this entire school are in the AP class, you know what I mean, are available to take these classes. So I think it was being able to see how those of us who could, if you will, speak the King's English different, were able to be, were volunteered to be in certain spaces. But I knew that I had friends that spoke Ave or AAE at most of the time, who were not invited into those same spaces. They weren't any less intelligent. So for me, diversity, or my passion for diversity, equity, and inclusion and justice has been, I guess, who I am forever, you know. And then getting to birth that in my career was less a process and more an opportunity that I couldn't pass up.
Wow. You couldn't pass it up because it was already in you.
It was already, it was just who I was. So
that's who you were. Yeah. Also, what would you all say about the role of other adults? Because Amber, you mentioned your father, and Katina, I wonder from your perspective, because even just as a child, it's somehow you knew. So I wonder if we could focus on that for a second when we talk about children and their maybe natural giftings, natural curiosities. what is the role or for in general, or even for you all, with the adults in your life at that time who maybe helped to nurture that? Because somebody had to give you that chapter book. It's like, where did you get the chapter book from? So it's like, so if you all can speak to that, like the adults that were in your life at that time, and whether that played a role in either helping you to discover or nurturing that curiosity and passion that was within you.
Mine was my mom. My mom was married to this I call him my ex stepdaddy, but he was married, and he took the time. And a lot of times it was just spending time and just, let's play cards, let's play dominoes, and I believe that he really, to me, educators are just a facilitation of learning, and the greatness already exists. And so I believe that he saw something, he saw that in me, like she picks up, she picks up on things well. And so, yeah, with my habit of, we watch soap operas a lot. And so, but we, but we also played dominoes and cards and those things. And so the adults were the ones that really nurtured me. And then my mom nurtured me as well, but she nurtured me in a sense of, and I don't know it, but I know you got something. And
Right.
and let me, I don't know where to go, but I'm gonna put you in this program. I'm gonna make sure. Now I may not read the whole book, but I know we're gonna try to attempt to read the whole book as a family. I was the only one that read the book in the family, but it was just fostering those environments. And then, of course, church played a part in it too. Those that nurtured the gifts that I had, they played a big part. But also my mom was she may not have known where to go, but she knew something. And so she would try her best to put me in programs, or and she's the one that forced me on the engineering track that I may not have finished, but it started me on my journey because I did not want to participate. And she's like, "You getting in this," and that's what started me. That's part of the process and the journey that I've been on, and I appreciate her as well. So those are, and then I had wonderful science teachers. I had magnificent. Maybe I had one bad one. Let me take that back. I had one bad one. That was in high school, but my science teachers were really good. I've gone to, I got to go to the Kennedy Space Center and things like that in middle school, and I had a really good third grade, Miss Harper, good third grade science teacher that was just really, really great. So those adults also fostered that within me. And Mr. Bergen, that I'm saying I was in Rita's Theater. So those are things that just nurtured that type of environment. So those are adults that I could really think about right now. I haven't even thought about that. Thanks for asking that question. So it's been a lot of adults that fostered that, and I'm appreciative of that.
Yeah, awesome. Because it shows how important it is in the process. So
It is.
so there's interest to go back and reflect on and say, yeah, it was natural giftings and abilities there. And then the role of parents and caregivers and educators and people in our church communities, all of that is so important to further foster all of those abilities and talents. And I think it's so encouraging, maybe for any adult, to know we don't have to know everything. But it seemed like you said, like, it's just a desire and a willingness, and maybe even the word I use sometimes is attunement, that noticing that it's something there. I may not be able to describe it or put words to it, but it's something going on there with my baby, with that child, and I know I need to get them in some sort of program to help this along. So it's like, that's all we need to know, and get them in there, and then that'll further nurture that. Yeah. What about for you, Amber? What do you?
Well, like I said, my dad would be that first person. And I say my dad is my educator. My mother is, I've been a creative for as long as I can remember. And even though my mother is math and logic, what I'm saying, what she knew was Amber is reading, writing, speaking, creative, right? And so both of my parents very much nurtured those things and those gifts. And then in elementary, of course, my father having control of my teachers and curriculum put me with teachers explicitly that would nurture those gifts, K through 6th grade. And then by the time, which is where I fell in love with writing poetry or reading and I guess even public speaking as even in elementary, I got to be on the news team and things of that nature, or compete in oratory competitions and things of that nature. By the time I got to high school, I absolutely still loved reading, and my AP teachers would allow me the creativity in their assignments. Like one of my favorite assignments, I remember Hamlet's soliloquy, To Be or Not to Be. We were to write a parody, or, on what that looks like. And that was one of my favorite assignments. Like I keep it somewhere. I did To Kiss or Not to Kiss, and like, it wasn't like, it was just, the breadth of assignments that allowed me to continue in that space of creativity, and then being on teams where that is who I was. I got to be the creative, and they were like, okay, what we gonna do? I don't want to build it. I don't want to have to, none of that. I just want to birth some ideas and then see how we gonna get to the end. So being able to be on teams, that's what we did. And then in high school, I found competitive acting. And that was a different way to be able to be that creative, to bring characters to life. So it would be everything from my drama teacher to my AP English teachers to family members that simply allow me the space to be like, I don't know how you got there I don't know how you got that idea to Z from A, but it was being able to see the process of the way those things would happen.
Wow, that's wonderful. I'm just over here kind of smiling because I really value the role of parents, educators, also, and then people in the community, extended community, the village, right? That's basically what we're talking about, the village. But I'm hearing both of you all say you were given opportunities.
Absolutely.
So I think that's the other thing. They created space and opportunity for those gifts to be exercised and nurtured, and they grew.
Even my cousins who did not want to be in the Christmas play that I created, and I'd be like, no, you acting in this play. And they'd be like, I'm not. Like, even those cousins who did not want to be in the Christmas and Thanksgiving pageants and plays that I wrote, that also were in those plays.
Yeah,
yep.
That's awesome. I love that. So that create, because Katina, earlier in our conversation, I believe you mentioned in that meeting, or when you all came into contact with each other, creativity and vision.
Yep.
You talked about that earlier, and you see how that's connected.
Yep.
There's already been, even when you were in school there, Amber, you were being a creative and you were having vision.
Yes, she was.
You had vision and creativity just throughout.
And trying to convince somebody. And from the beginning, I'm going to convince somebody to go on this journey with me.
Somebody.
Which is why I am grateful for my sister. Because if I say, okay, listen, Katina, in February, we're going to Mars. She's not gonna say, I don't want to go to Mars. She's gonna say, Amber, wait, what's the time frame? We're going to Mars. It's not a can we do this? It's more like her brain is already, okay, Amber trying to go to Mars. We're gonna need to get these suits by this time. We're gonna need to do that. Like, her brain is mapped out the process. It is not I don't know if we can go. I don't know if we can get there. It is I believe we can get there, because Amber had a vision. She said we finna get there, but all right, this everything that we finna have to do in order to get to Mars.
Yeah. Like, let's go ahead and execute it.
Yeah, okay, all right, we're going to Mars. She's gonna tell other people, listen. And she may be skeptical at the time. She's gonna be like, listen, y'all, we're going to Mars. I know it sounds lofty. I know. Like, she's the one to have to convince the other folk, like, we're going to Mars. It's gonna be all right. I got you.
Yep. Yeah,
I'm
more so the person.
Somebody on your team like that.
Yeah, I'm more so the person who's like, I'm not saying no, but when the time frame, can we get, like, this is what's gonna have to happen?
Amber, I'm not saying no. I am saying we're wearing helmets. Like, she's gonna give me the safeguards. We're gonna wear helmets. You are not gonna dance in a pool of lava. You are not. I'm not saying we're not going, but if we're going, this is what has to happen. We're not. Yeah,
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So it's so awesome to see and then hear about how all of that you're saying, Amber, from your standpoint and Katina, from your standpoint, that this was in you when you were kids. So it's always interesting, I just think about that when I'm talking to parents and educators mainly. It's just like when you see these qualities in kids, especially when I work with kids who have some social and emotional behavioral difficulties, it's how they bossy, they this. I say, oh no, that's your little leader. That's your leader. That's your thinker. That's your visionary. That's gonna be your question asker. Yeah, they challenging. Yeah, they're challenging systems. They want to disrupt the systems. That's gonna be something right there. They gotta gotta have to be able to nurture that though, and foster a setting
Absolutely.
where they could actually be able to use that in a way that's positive. What would you all say? And then I want to kind of move it along, baby, to get to the books and what you all have birthed and everything. But I do want to ask, as you all move through your process where you realize more and more about who you are, your identity, you bringing in your blackness and your intellect, all these gifts, your creativity, your vision, your ability to execute and think through. What would you say were some lessons learned in that process of like how to blend these identities? Like, I'm just wondering, like, what did you all learn about yourself, life, lessons learned?
I think for me, it was the unpacking. There was
Mm,
so many things that even as a lover of Black culture and all things Black, I still needed to unpack internalized racism. I
mm,
still need to unpack and internalize misogyny and internalize misogynoir, which is specific to the hate of Black women, or internalized sexism. So even though I had explicit beliefs about my gifts, right? That's one thing. And I had explicit desires and passion to serve my community and to know that DEI was a thing. There's still and forever, will be things that I need to unpack about who I am and what I believe about not just myself, but those around me and who identify the same as me and all of that. So the lessons, I guess, in that would be like the old folks say, like, just keep living, if there's a lesson that I have to sum up, because while I may have been mature or advanced in these things for my age, as far as creativity and being able to birth items or starting early in entrepreneurship, that didn't change the fact that there were still journeys in my personal and in my intellect and in my emotional journeys that also were very much a process to get to where I am now. And that I acknowledge that I still will continue that process if I still want to be who I say I want to be by the end of this thing.
okay. Wow. I love it. I love it. Katina. What about you?
I mean, she really summed up everything about the lesson that I've learned, and it's that it's a journey. It's a journey. It's a journey, and it does take some unpacking. And I'm like, even when we're going into STEM careers, or we're talking about science, technology, engineering, and math, and understanding the context and the messages that we have received as a group of people, right? About our abilities, and then me having to unpack that. Out for an example of sitting in a classroom, and they were telling me, this was when I was in undergrad, and they were saying, if I go on an interview, don't wear braids. Don't wear my hair. Don't wear the hair that comes, don't wear braids because you might not get. So having to unpack that, of what's professional, what's me in this space. And I think that's a lot of learning. And then, realizing that I'm still unpacking internalized what do we say, oppression.
Yeah.
I'm still unpacking, and those things are constant, but also making sure that I'm embedding that into our curriculum, so we don't have kids that have to unpack like we're having to unpack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you were saying welcome in these spaces, but it's like getting to a point or that lesson where I'm not going to always be welcome in these spaces to others, but I'm going to welcome myself into
Right.
these spaces, right? My whole self is going to be welcome in spaces, whether it is received or not. I'm bringing every piece of me that I am, because that's how I best function, for me.
Man, and I can imagine that is a process and a journey to get there, to be able to say, this is what I'm going to do, and then handle it and radically accept, really accept all of me may not be accepted or embraced in
Yeah.
this space. And what does that look like at the same time for me to still be in that space fully and me welcome, embrace, and accept all of who I am,
Yeah,
even when
absolutely.
others don't. That is a
Absolutely.
process, and that's what we have to learn as people of color, as women, and other marginalized groups as well. When would you all say, and this is just something I've been thinking about even in a professional and personal kind of context, when I think about my little niece and nephew who may be, you know, having these experiences early elementary. When is it, do you all feel like, is appropriate to start having conversations with kids? Kind of, I think about it as socialization, right? Really socializing them, giving them messages about racism, how to handle discrimination and bias and any of the isms.
When they first
When does that
experience it,
start?
when
When
they
should we
first
do that?
experience and they are first aware of the fact that it is present, period. My son is 17 and there's a he wanted a tattoo for his 17th birthday. And the tattoo that I finally said yes to, because I just just even having to unpack, that's who I am as a mom. I'm gonna let my baby get a tattoo. But anyway, he got a poem that I taught him in elementary called "I'm the Black Child." And that's probably why he was like, I know she'll say yes to this, but it's something that I started him saying from kindergarten through high school, because it was something that was given to me. I went to a pro-Black, all Black, it was called McGraw Learning Institute. And we would say we would
Yeah,
say the
come
national
on.
anthem and the Pledge of Allegiance, but then you would sing the Black national anthem and say, I'm a Black child every morning. And that is when, you know, like there is, it's not about the racism, but it is about pride in the race. So it's never too early to instill the pride in who I am, because then for me, I'm able to see when there was a dissonance between who I said I am and who I believe myself to be, and then who the world was trying to tell me to be. And that allowed for the conversations that, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
I was able to have, that my parents were able to have with me, and that I was able to have with my son. Like him teaching him at first, you're a Black child, and the world is going to see you as a Black man. And then him being able to then understand, because the world sees me as a Black man, there's this, I don't have to believe XYZ. I can know this, you know, and those conversations have been able to be ongoing throughout his life.
Okay, yeah, because you set that foundation early on for this is who you are. And I love that. Shout out to Dr. Patricia McGraw,
Absolutely.
the McGraw Learning Institute.
Absolutely.
I went there, my brother went there, my cousins went there. Yes, yes, absolutely laid a good foundation for who we are and our heritage, and then also for education. So I love it. And so you instill those same things into your son, and you saying then that opened the door for just ongoing conversation.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah.
I love it.
We started with literature back in the I think my daughter is now 11, so we were reading around 3 years old, and so I can't even remember the book. I wish I had a copy of it, where she was having conversations about her skin color, whether it was, and if this was colorism, whether it was too dark, or you know. So it starts is when they start asking those questions, because from the womb they're getting messages and all the time. And so although I wish it was a world where they wouldn't realize it until older, and I wouldn't have to have those questions, but it doesn't. And so it starts as early as they start asking questions and they start recognizing, because they're receiving messages as well. And so my job is to counter those messages that she's receiving. So we read literature and we read books about skin color, about the wonderfulness of all skin colors, and so it was that process for me. So I think starting as young as when they ask.
So, you know, I'm gonna say she did it right, because my niece is the bomb.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it sounds like you all are intentional. I know Amber used that word earlier, being intentional about doing this, starting as soon as they ask questions, as soon as they start noticing. I mean, just really early on. Books. I mean, we can do this in early childhood, but certainly when questions, then it can become more advanced in terms of the types of conversations that you all have with the kiddos. Okay. Well, you all have shared a lot, I feel like, awesome information. So now we feel like we know the behind the scenes about the authors. This is like lovely, lovely. So this may be a good segue into the book. Amber, you have it there. STEM looks like me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. STEM looks like me. Yes. And like I said, I've purchased that book. I encourage people to get out there and purchase it. Amber or Katina, or both of you all, you can say a little bit about it. I don't know if you want to just pick it up and then show the people a little bit about the book.
I first want to say that our younger sister is also
It's on
here.
the book. Yeah.
Yes. Our younger sister is an OBGYN. And she is also listed as an author on the book. She is passionate about representation, and so I just wanted to make sure that we acknowledge and share her as well. That's our baby.
Yes.
The book, Katina, that same camp we were talking about, Katina would do a charge, and I think I had done it. Was it the first year? And then I done it the first year, and then the second year I was like, I can't think of nothing. Tina, go. And Tina, being the creative that she is, had the babies yelling like STEM looks like me, and it was after that I was like, man, that's a book. Like we're gonna make. Tina was like, that's a book. And we kept saying, like, we probably said it for a few years, like, that's a book. One day I went to sleep and I drafted this story. I woke up and she was like, it's cool, but, and then she, which is about normal, you know what I'm saying? It's about normal. So like, I'm crunk. I'm like, listen, I done this work, and this is, I'm telling you, she was like, okay, I'm gonna get to it. She had already read it. I'm gonna get to it. I mean, I got a lot of changes. Okay. So that was Tina talk for, I'm gonna change some stuff in this book. And she did, and so that process, that process was that. And then our amazing publisher, Butterfly Typeface Publishing, she came with because we were intentional about wanting a Black female publisher. And then and so she came with the illustrator, and when we saw these babies with dark skin and 4C curl pattern, purposefully, because the book is about representation, like it we cried.
We did.
Yeah,
we did. And we looked at I looked at my skin, and I looked at the skin, and it mattered, and it didn't. I'm about to cry now.
Yeah.
It didn't hit until we saw it. And it's like, oh, dang. And you don't realize that you hadn't seen that as often. And then the skin was our skin tone. And I just didn't, and I know if people are looking at like, oh my gosh, whatever, but like it really mattered. It mattered to us. And we are
as little dark skinned Black girls, it mattered to us.
It did. And that was
those babies.
It was like my inner child was like, oh, that looks like me for real. And it's the STEM, and it was an amazing experience to see that. And so I don't want to start crying right now because I'm the crier.
Yeah, and that's all right. I'm always the person. I cry too, so I'm like, I still make space for crying, because mattering is a thing, right? Like it's so much to be said about the importance of mattering.
Yeah,
we all want to matter, and that's so when we see that representation, it's like I matter in the STEM space. I matter, right? I matter in all the spaces that I'm in, including STEM.
A huge word person, and during 2020, when the world was ablaze, it was the Black Lives Matter conversation. And I would have to remind people that the word matter, just in and of itself, the definition is a subject of consideration. So for us, matter should be the minimum. I don't want to just be a subject of consideration. Like I'm telling you that representation matters, but the reason that it's saying that is that at minimum, it should be a subject of representation should be a subject of consideration. At minimum, Blackness should be a subject of consideration. So to like, that's why with the intentional is us moving from a little bit past matter to yes, that this is absolutely necessary in the subject of conversations.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. Where can people, if they say, okay, I need that STEM looks like me book, where do they get that from? How can they find it?
You can find it on Amazon. As of right now, you can find it And you can even go to our website. We are the Diversity Booth. You can order it from the Diversity Booth, and then, you know, there's options if you order from us to have it signed by the authors, or you can order it from Amazon, and then, you know, get them shipped straight to you.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. And you also mentioned the camp, and it seemed like this was birthed even through that process of doing this camp. If we have parent, educator, anybody listening, adult who interacts with kids, how can they find out? They say, I want my child at this camp. How old does the child need to be? How do they find out about it?
Well, I am officially the inaugural curriculum coordinator for that camp. It's now statewide, and it is
The UAMS
Pathways Academy. And so they can be as young as kindergarten, and they can be as old as 12th grade is kind of too late, but but it goes K through 12. And so it's a pathway. It's an intentional pathway that when they get in, they stay in, and we create curriculum, culturally relevant curriculum that is worked with all our pathways instructors around the state. And so it still follows the same model and vision that Amber and I created, and her idea of community is still embedded into it. The culture of care is still embedded into it.
Community service.
Community service,
community service in it.
Community service, the cheers and chants, the songs, the activities, and then the STEM component, and utilizing intentional partnerships with that to make it happen. And so it's happening statewide. And so they can go to UAMS Pathways Academy. And then if they have questions, they can email the Pathways Academy team. And then of course our contact and our emails are going to be included on this, right? So they can contact me as well.
Okay. Wow, that's wonderful. UAMS Pathways Academy. They can look at that. K through 12. Hey, you all are here to assist that whole range. I think that's great. Because first I thought you was going to say middle school, high school or something. But you say even the babies, kindergarten, I love it. Elementary, all of it.
And we pay our 9th through 12th graders. We pay them $200 to participate in our program. And we do ACT prep, and they get free ACT, a voucher for that. And then our kindergarten to 8th grade, we work on community science. They present, they do research, they do all hands-on type of activities. It's fully engaged. They tired at the end of the day. They sleep because they had a whole lot of fun. But that's just the foundation that my sis Amber envisioned, and it's just been expanding all over the state. So we're super dope. We're super dope. We're super dope.
Oh, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. That is so great. That's so great. So what's next? I know, Amber, I think before we started, you told me about a book that's coming out next month. So tell us what's next. Tell us something about this book.
We are just as passionate about Black sisterhood and sisterhood as we are about representation and diversity, equity, inclusion. So our next book is called Dear Sis, I Love You. It's an anthology of Black sisterhood. We've collected stories from young Black people from ages 11 to as old as in their 70s. And it is everything from stories to poems to, like just letters to us. We just wanted to, remind the community and ourselves through that process of the fact that it's a myth to think that Black women don't get along. It's a myth to think that community of Black women don't exist. And that is personally for me where Katina and I can say we've experienced the most healing. And so we wanted to write that, or to be the authors or the curators of that anthology. And Dear Sis, I Love You will be able to also be found on our website, on Amazon. And it is, it's a beautiful project.
It's beautiful.
It has over 30 plus women in it. Yeah, and it's beautiful.
It does sound beautiful. Oh man, I love it. I look forward to it. That's coming out next month, April 2023.
Yep.
Is when that's coming out. Now you mentioned your website, so if people want to just follow what you all are doing, I mean, you have books, you have camps, you have all this kind of stuff that you're doing, and I'm pretty sure it's just growing from there. How can people connect with you and follow you all's work and what you're doing?
www.diversitybooth.com. Yeah.
Okay. diversitybooth.com. Booth, Booth.
Yes, like
Yes,
our last
ma'am.
name, just like
Like
it.
your
Yep,
last
just
name,
like it.
diversitybooth.com. I very much appreciate you all. I feel like we could go on and on. I love we've talked about all things Black, everything Black, STEM. We've talked about how to nurture and cultivate and foster gifts and opportunities for children. I appreciate you all sharing your hearts, sharing what you're passionate about, being transparent and sharing your journey as well. It's been another edition of Birthing the Gifts. It's a Process Conversation series. And again, thank you all for joining today. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.